Hello and welcome. Today we're working on accounting basics. This is chapter 1. We're talking about careers and certifications, kind of an alphabet soup of all the different organizations and certifications that you can get in accounting. Now, when you first start taking accounting, you know you're going to do journal entries and debits and credits and financial statements, but something you may not expect is you're learning about accounting careers and certifications also. Now, you may not care about this when you're first taking accounting, but your professor does because he or she is an accountant and you might be tested over this, so you want to have a good background here. So let's talk about the accounting careers. So what can you do with accounting? And one of the things that happens is you have public accounting, you work for an accounting firm, you have auditing, taxation, advisory services. So audit of companies is public auditing or external auditing. Obviously help people with compliance with taxation. You might do consulting or advisory services. So that is some of the areas in public accounting. Now, these aren't perfect definitions, or might be some overlap. There might be some forensic accounting going on with public accounting people or whatever. So these are not clear lines. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what happens in the profession. You could work for a company in corporate accounting, internal auditing, or some kind of management accounting. The CFO or the controller is really an accounting finance type of role. And so you could have lots of people working in a corporate environment using accounting skills of all sorts of different types. Could be a taxation person working in corporate accounting. Now, forensic accounting is an area where they might go to court, they might look at financial fraud, they might look at, to try to find information about crimes. And so it might be law enforcement, it could be FBI, it could be a financial institution like a bank or insurance company to try to find financial crime. Now, governmental accounting, obviously there's all sorts of local, state, federal type of agencies. And so there's all sorts of people working in government. They could be internal auditors, they could be tax experts, or on and on and on. Now, another category would be nonprofit accounting. So you work at a charity, you could work at a nonprofit hospital or university, or there's lots of different ways that this works. Now, accounting deals with money, in any organization doesn't maybe exist for the money, but they have to have money to exist, right? It's just like you don't exist to breathe oxygen, but you have to breathe oxygen to exist, right? So that's kind of the idea of the financial situation. You know, you don't really think about oxygen until, if you got to a point where you've held your breath and you need to take one more breath to replace that, then you really think about, hey, I need to breathe. Well, same thing with cash and accounting issues. You have to have accounting, you have to have cash, you have to have revenues and profits and things like that. All right, the next one is the big four accounting firms. There's 4 big worldwide firms, and here are their logos. And so they're now down, there used to be long names, like PwC stands for Price Waterhouse Coopers, so it's just PwC. KPMG is an association around the world of these firms with different names, so they use KPMG as their trade and their trade association. EY is the former Ernst & Young. That's probably their official name. They just use EY. And Deloitte has a long name, and they just use Deloitte. So these are the big 4 accounting firms. If they come to campus, you'll know PwC, KPMG, EY, and Deloitte are big accounting firms, big professional firms. All of them had revenues of over $30 billion. So big employers. Pay attention when they come to your campus, because they may have a job for you or an internship. All right, here we get into the alphabet soup kind of thing. And so you need to take notes on this. You need to pay attention and write them down and make sure you know these. This is not a complete list. This is a good list. It's not maybe your professor might have one other association or financial certification that they care about. So let's look at these that we have. Now, Probably the biggest one is the CPA, the Certified Public Accountant. You have to pass a test, you have to have a degree. Typically, you have to have 150 hours in the United States. So this is a United States degree, designation or certification, probably be a better way to say it than a degree. And so this is recognized as very outstanding quality certification. Now, if you're in other countries, they might call it a Chartered Accountant or CA. So if you're in Canada or Scotland or England or Australia, then it might be a CA. The next one down is the Certified Management Accountant. So people that work maybe in corporate world, they would be a CMA possibly, Certified Management Accountant. People that work in internal auditing would be a CIA or Certified Internal Auditor. Now, I also have the associations kind of tied with this. So if you're a CPA, then one of your professional associations is the AICPA, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. If you're a CA, then you might have an Institute of Chartered Accountants, and I just picked Scotland, they're the oldest, but it could be different countries around the world. And so it's country by country typically. And so a lot of them are titled Institute of Chartered Accountants of, and then the name of the country. The CMA is the Institute of Management Accountants, the IMA. The Certified Internal Auditor is also with the Institute of Internal Auditors, the IIA. Now, these next ones are not maybe as traditional accountant, but they're related, they're financial. So let's talk about them just for a minute. You could have the CFA, which is the Chartered Financial Analyst. And so their work with their organization that sponsors that is the CFA Institute. And so you take a test and you're a financial analyst rather than a public accountant or whatever, auditor. So they have a different role. They look at investments and financial analysis of companies. Now, an area that has grown over the last several years is the fraud examiner. So there's an actual examination and a certification on Certified Fraud Examiner, and they of course have an association of CFEs, so there's that. And then related to this is a Certified Financial Planner. If you help people with their financial situation, their personal finances, then you could be a CFP, and they have the CFP Board. It's what typically people call it, but it's officially the Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards. So these are a lot of the certifications and professional associations that you need to know. Now, we got one more slide here in terms of we have regulatory organizations, and your professor would care about this. So in the United States, we have several different organizations that work together to provide guidance on the rules of accounting or issuing the CPA certificates, the licenses. So in the United States, we have the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. That's a governmental organization. They have the authority to set accounting standards. They allow the next organization, the FASB or FASB, is the Financial Accounting Standards Board. They allow the FASB to set all the rules, and those rules collectively are called GAAP. So the next one down, GAAP. So GAAP is called Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, and that's just the set of U.S. rules that every company has to follow. Now, the next two organizations here are the NASBA, the National Association of State Boards of Accountancy. Make this a little bit wider so you can see what we have. Now, every CPA in the United States is licensed by a particular state. The certification is from a state. So you could be a Texas CPA or a California CPA, a Tennessee CPA. So they have state boards, and they've gone together as a National Association of State Boards called NASBA, and they collectively administer the CPA exam in terms of the candidates that are qualified based on their state rules, and then they have a national CPA database for candidates. And the AICPA actually creates the exam. They're the body for CPAs. They create the exam, so to be licensed as a CPA, you have to work with the NASBA, your state board, and you become a a specific state CPA, then that's recognized in other states. Internationally, we have similar things. We have the International Accounting Standards Board, IASB, and their rules are called IFRS, the International Financial Reporting Standards. So we basically have two sets of rules in the world, and they're fairly similar. We have the U.S. GAAP. So if they talk about GAAP, that's U.S. GAAP, and if they talk about IFRS, that's international rules, International Financial Reporting Standards. So these are all the kind of the alphabet soup that's included in Chapter 1 that you may not care about. I get it, but your professor does, and it could show up on your first exam. So I hope this is helpful. We have a full set of Chapter 1 resources. We're working on the whole financial accounting course, or the accounting course. Check our website. There's a link below, and we'll see you on the next video. Hey, good luck in accounting.